my guest from York, England, is Nicholas Perrinn. Nicholas, or Nick, I hope it's okay to call you, is a race car designer. And we're going to talk about a really interesting project I just learned about. There's all kinds of crowdsourcing taking place. People are attempting to find the missing Malaysian airliner using crowdsourcing. All kinds of projects are being crowd-funded. So I think Nick decided to take that trend of crowdsourcing and crowdfunding and actually design and build and race an LMP1 race car at Le Mans. And we want to find out about this. Is cool. So Nick, welcome to EV World.
Oh, hi. Well, nice to be with you today.
It's great to have you with us as well. This is wonderful. Now, I assume, I think I read that that you guys are located in York. Is that correct?
Yeah, Yorkshire. A bit more close to Leeds,
right.
North Leeds.
Okay, so for people that aren't familiar, York is more or less in the northern part of England. It's not quite all the way to Scotland, but
it's not far from Scotland. That's right.
Yep, very good. Now let's sort of bring people here a little bit up to speed about who you are and your background in racing. You look like a young guy that can't have any kind of race design experience, but in fact you do. So bring us up to speed.
Yeah, basically I've got nearly 15 years of experience in Formula One and Le Mans. That's all we've done here is Formula One and Le Mans. I've been a race engineer and I've also been a designer. So I've split my career between operations on track as a race engineer, initially at Le Mans in LMP1. And then I went to Williams and I did performance engineer on track as well. And I've decided to switch to design and aerodynamics at Williams because I wanted to have a broad experience of a race car project.
Right.
At the end of some years at Williams, I thought, I'm ready now to actually get on with the project I've always wanted to do. And that is to design and build a complete LMP1 car.
Okay. Well, for people that are not familiar with Le Mans prototype cars, sort of tell us a little bit about what the whole 24 hours of Le Mans is about from the point of view. Obviously, you've got all kinds of high-performance cars, everything from Corvettes all the way up to these super sophisticated cars that Audi and Toyota and Porsche typically field and race for 24 hours. So tell us a little bit about that whole Le Mans experience. What's that like?
Well, Le Mans for me is the greatest race in the world. As an engineer, it's probably the biggest challenge because really, especially these days, it's become a proper Grand Prix, but lasting for 24 hours. So you have to be very fast, but also last for a long time. And you only have one shot at it a year. So it is a very big challenge to win this. You have to know that an LMP1 car is very close to an F1 car in terms of design. The way, as a designer, we share the same technology and the same process when we design an LMP1 car or when we design a Formula One car. So it is a long Grand Prix.
Right. I've always been curious, and I assumed that because virtually all of your Grand Prix cars, your F1 cars, are open cockpit cars, whereas all of the LMP cars that I see racing are all closed cockpit, canopied vehicles. Is that simply just to account for dealing with the weather and driving for 24 hours, or why the difference? Why not just use an F1 car on the at Le Mans?
Yes, the reason for the roof really is safety now. More and more we've realized that it's better to, for structural reasons, especially if the car rolls over, to have the roof. There's no issue anymore with fuel cell, blowing like it used to be. So And that was an issue with having a roof before, because the driver would be stuck in the car. But it's not true anymore. It's better to have a roof in case of a crash. And then the other difference, visually, obviously, a Le Mans car is a two-seater, so the driver doesn't really sit in the center of the car. And also, you've got bodywork on top of the wheels. But apart from that, again, it's like a Formula One car.
Okay, so the whole idea here is that you start the race, and if I remember correctly, it starts around 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon,
Right.
and then runs through the evening all night long, and then finishes up 24 hours later at the obviously at the finish line. So the challenge here is obviously to be fuel efficient, so that you're not having to make multiple fuel stops, but also being as fast as you possibly can be, and at some point changing drivers. I'm gathering this is not the same driver that does the 24 hours. There's probably 3 or 4 drivers that spell each other.
That's right. We have 3 drivers. For the strategy, what's important, for example, to gain time, is to try and change the driver when you change the tires. Because you can do it at the same time. If you don't change both at the same time, you actually lose more overall.
Right.
So you're trying to go as long as you can on the tires, and sometimes drivers will stay nearly 4 hours in the car. That's the maximum length you can stay in. So that's important, but all the parameters are treated again like in a Grand Prix car, which means that you have to be very efficient with the fuel, as you say, but still very fast. And really, drivers these days racing at Le Mans, some of them are coming from Formula One, a lot of them are coming from single-seaters. The cars are very close in handling and feeling compared to a single-seater, so we use the same strategy and approach as a Grand Prix, but it's for 24 hours. And also the car is shared by 3 drivers, which means in terms of setup, in terms of sitting position, you have to work on this to make sure all drivers are very happy with it.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about then how you've got some. I've watched the last 2 years. Fortunately, they've started webcasting the Le Mans, so I've started off in the afternoon, finally dropped off to sleep in the middle of the night, and then got up the next morning to see the end of the race. So you have this really tough competition that's taking place, particularly between Audi with their R18 Quattro e-tron hybrid. And now, in fact, I just posted today on the website, Toyota's returning with the TS040 car, which is a V8 gasoline car with now an electric motor driving the front axle. And these guys have been very strong competitors. Porsche is, I guess, coming back this year also to enter the fray. So you've got some really serious, large, dynamic powerhouse corporations, and you're coming in and you're saying, I want to crowdsource and crowdfund this from all of us amateurs out there. How are you going to do that?
I know, I understand your question, and that's right. The competition is very fierce and the level is very high. We know the size of the challenge, but we want to be there, and we think we have all the required skills, and we have the car to be there. You have to remember, at the end of the day, what's important is the design of the car. If you come with the right car, you stand a very good chance to perform well. And yes, then you still need to have your race team performing around that. But the race car and the performance of it is crucial. What we've done here is we've spent 3 years since I left Williams looking at what is the concept of the car we need. So we really spent and invested a lot of money and time in the design of the car itself. We've looked at the new regulations. We were the first people to look at the new regulations even before Porsche started.
Okay.
and really spend the time needed to come up with the right solutions to have a very performant car. We have the experience of Le Mans. We know what it takes. You also need to have a simple car and very reliable, easy to work on. So all these aspects have been put on the project from very early on. We think we've got the experience and the skills to come up with, with a potentially a winning car. It will take more time to get there. You don't achieve that in the first iteration, but we have the process in place. Obviously, our philosophy is slightly different because, as you say, we want to do it as a collaborative project on a global scale. What the aim of it is that by sharing everything, I want to create a huge community of talented people who will want to help improving the car with us. Now, it's not to say that we're expecting people to design the car for us. We've done this.
Right.
But we think that we will have access to technology and talents that we wouldn't have access to if we wouldn't do this collaborative approach.
So instead of having let's say your typical, there are no typical Le Mans teams, but whereas Toyota might, turn to its own internal engineers and maybe some outside talent that it brings in, but that's pretty well a closed operation. And I'm sure a lot of what they do is kept secret for competitive reasons. You're attempting to really kind of turn that on its head and say, we're going to just, open up, if you pardon the pun, open our kimono, and we're going to encourage people to come in, look at what we're doing. I assume make suggestions, maybe not get in and actually do the CAD work and change things around, because you obviously want to be able to have some control over that, but at least come in and make suggestions and things and sort of follow the process through. So does that sort of give away any kind of competitive advantage you would have?
So, as you say, we're the structure I want to put in place is different. Audi or Porsche are, a close team with maybe 250 people working on it. What my team is a very small group at Perrinn Limited, and a huge amount of people, thousands of people outside of Perrinn Limited, helping my team. So actually, in terms of number of people involved, we'll probably have more than these big teams. But it is for us at Perrinn Limited to give the quality of the project, to filter what's going to come from the outside, and to select what we want to be put on the car coming from the outside, and by using this process of what I call initiative and suggestions, people will suggest to us improvements by taking initiatives of looking into different aspects, and we will select what we wanted. We are the judges, and we will select what will go on the car. That's what an open source project is about. But obviously, we are the guarantors of the quality of the project and the performance of the car. But I do believe we will make improvements this way. But don't forget again that we have spent already 3 years designing the car. The baseline and the platform is there, and it is very good already.
Yeah. Has anybody that has come in and shared? You've got 3 years of your work and the CAD files and everything laid out. Has anything particular suggestion come in that says, oh, gee, why didn't we think of that? Let's incorporate it.